Are you tired of losing your temper with those that you love? Do you feel angry and stressed more often than you'd like? Are you sick and tired of saying, "It will never happen again," only to know that you have said this many times before? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then you are in the right place. Hello and welcome to the Anger Secrets podcast. I'm Alastair Duhs, and over the last 30 years, I've taught over 10,000 men and women how to control their anger, master their emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships. In this podcast, I'll share with you the same proven tools and techniques I've used to help my clients control their anger and transform their lives. For a free training on how to control your anger, master your emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships, visit angersecrets.com/training. In this training, I'll teach you some of the most powerful tips, tools, and techniques that I've used to help my clients control their anger so that you can start seeing results fast. Visit angersecrets.com/training to access this powerful training now. With that said, let's begin. In today's episode, I'll discuss a bit more about the Anger Secrets podcast, answer the question, why is learning to control your anger important, and share a little bit more about who I am. Let's start with, what is the Anger Secrets podcast? The Anger Secrets podcast is a show dedicated to teaching you actionable tips, tools, and techniques to control your anger, master your emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships. In each episode, I'll share with you the same anger management tools and techniques that I have used with over 10,000 men and women to help them control their anger and transform their lives. Every few weeks, I'll also release bonus episodes of this podcast, featuring past clients who have used these anger management tools and strategies to achieve anger management success. Let's now move on to the question, why is learning to control your anger important? The answer to this question is simple. Since I started teaching people how to control their anger over 30 years ago, I have witnessed the devastating effects that uncontrolled anger, even in small doses, can have on people's lives. I have seen marriages and relationships ruined, careers destroyed, and families torn apart, all because people could not control their anger. I've also seen the heartbreak and pain that people experience when they are on the receiving end of someone else's anger. I have spent hours talking to mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters who have been verbally, emotionally, and even physically abused by those they love. And I know the lasting damage that anger, abuse, or violence of any type can have. For these reasons and so many more, I believe that learning to control your anger is one of the most essential skills that you can ever learn. I know that if you're listening to this show, you likely have experienced some of the negative effects of uncontrolled anger in your own life. You may have said or done things you regret when you were angry. You may have hurt the people you love the most. You may have acted in abusive or violent ways towards those that you love. You may even be experiencing some of the negative consequences of your anger in your life right now. If you are ready to take control of your anger and transform your life, then I am here to help you. No matter how much anger or rage you feel inside, no matter how out of control you think your anger is, and no matter what effect your anger has had in the past, I want you to know that it doesn't have to be this way. Learning to control your anger is a skill that anyone can master. I have taught thousands of people from all walks of life how to control their anger, and I know that if you are willing to put in the effort, you can do it too. But you need to make a decision to take control of your anger and change. If you are ready to make that decision, I am here to help you. In fact, I will be your best ally in this journey. But choose right now not to let anger destroy any other aspect of your life or affect your loved ones around you. You won't regret it. Okay, so who am I? As mentioned, my name is Alastair Duhs. I am an anger expert with over 30 years of experience teaching people to control their anger, master their emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships. I am also a qualified counsellor and creator of the Complete Anger Management System, a life-changing online course that teaches anyone how to control their anger in just 10 minutes per day. While I am an anger expert today, this was not always the case. In fact, over 30 years ago, when I ran my first anger management program, I had no idea what I was doing. At the time, I was a 22-year-old trainee counsellor. I was working at a domestic violence intervention program. My job was to run anger management groups with men who had been court-ordered to attend because they had been violent towards their partners. At this time, I had very little anger management training and very few qualifications or experience. I was just a young guy who wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I remember the first anger management group that I ran. I sat in a small room in front of 25 hostile, angry men who didn't want to be there. To be honest, I was terrified. That night, and for months afterwards, I did my best to help the men who had to see me. But to be honest, I was winging it. I had little training in anger management, and I would mostly just sit with these men and listen to their stories of anger, abuse, or violence. Gradually, however, I began to notice patterns in the stories these men were telling me. I noticed certain things these men would often say, and certain patterns of thinking and behaving that these men would often follow. And when they did, episodes of anger, abuse, or violence would almost always occur. At the same time as noticing these patterns of thinking and behaving, I also noticed some common challenges these men faced. Most of these men, for example, did not recognize when they were getting angry. They were unaware of the early warning signs that their anger was beginning to boil over, and they would say that they snapped or lost control in the blink of an eye. Other men, even if they could recognize that they were getting angry, lacked the tools to deal with their anger constructively. They would try to count to 10 or leave the room, but they would remain angry and eventually explode anyway. Still other men, even if they could recognize their anger and had some tools to deal with it, had never learned to deal with their emotions healthily. No one had ever taught them how to express feelings such as hurt, vulnerability, or pain. As a result, they would bottle up these feelings and then eventually explode in anger anyway. Finally, I also noticed that almost all of the men in my early anger management groups lacked some basic communication skills. They struggled to listen to their partners without getting defensive or angry, or they struggled to express their thoughts and feelings in a way that didn't come across as demanding or aggressive. These were some of the common challenges I noticed in the men I was working with. As a result of noticing these common challenges, I started to develop simple tips, tools, and techniques to help these men address these challenges. Over time, I refined these tools and techniques. Within a few years, I developed a comprehensive system for anger management that thousands of men and women have followed over the last 30 years to create real and lasting change in their lives. One of the best things I noticed then was that my anger management system didn't just help men and women I worked with to control their anger. It also helped these men and women to master their emotions and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships. Today, I call this system the Complete Anger Management System. It is a step-by-step system that people can follow to control their anger, master their emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships, often in just 10 minutes per day. Not only that, but the Complete Anger Management System gives you a step-by-step system to control your anger without attending tedious counselling or therapy sessions or attending face-to-face anger management group programs that often just do not work. All you need is a willingness to learn simple tips, tools, and techniques to control your anger and a commitment to change. So if you're ready to change, I invite you to join me on this journey by following the Anger Secrets podcast and make sure that you do not miss any future episodes. In upcoming episodes, I will be teaching you specific tips, tools, and techniques you can use to control your anger and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships. So, if you are ready to take control of your anger, master your emotions, and create a calmer, happier, and more respectful life, then this podcast is for you. Thanks for listening to today's episode, welcoming you to the Anger Secrets podcast. And be sure to tune into the next episode to learn what anger is. If you found this episode helpful, please follow this podcast and head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app and leave a rating and review. This will help other people struggling with anger find and benefit from this show. Remember, for a free training on how to control your anger, master your emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships, visit angersecrets.com/training. And finally, remember, you can't control other people, but you can control yourself. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
The Anger Secrets podcast is for general informational purposes only, and does not constitute the practice of counseling, psychotherapy, or any other professional health service. No therapeutic relationship is implied or created by this podcast. If you have mental health concerns of any type, please seek out the help of a local mental health professional.